for bringing everything here, getting everything right here, okay?
Learn more at stjude.org.
Because that's part of getting media right, okay?
Where facts matter.
Okay, we should have everything in place.
This is the Santita Jackson
Here we go.
Mic on.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Let me get this mic. Cortez, help me to get this thing out of my face. That's right. As we talk about the debates, call me at 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278 WCPT. What did you think of the debates last night? I thought they were so exciting. So exciting. 773-763-9278. And of course, we are streaming live on Facebook on the Santita Jackson and Friends page, Santita Jackson and Friends. And we are also streaming live on on YouTube on the Santita Jackson Show. So please like and subscribe over there. Like and share over here on Facebook. Like and subscribe on the Santita Jackson Show over on YouTube. I want to know what you thought of the debates. I have to tell you, let me first of all apologize, because I had planned to have a watch party last night. And I was getting everything together, setting up my camera, which, I really don't want to do at home, you guys. Because when I go home, I need to have a moment of woosah. Woosah. But, that having been said, I sat on my sofa, I sat back, and it was 4 hours later. I was exhausted. I was going to talk to you guys, I guess, around 6:30, and that was it. I said, oh my gosh, so I've got to stay up for the rest of the night so I can see the debate. Even though I had it on the channel, I still wanted to see it in real time. And I did. And you know what? I was not disappointed. They were off to a rollicking start from the get-go. I mean, starting with Elizabeth Warren. We saw the real Elizabeth Warren last night. Not the chilled-out version. I think she's authentic. I really do. I like her a whole lot. That having been said, last night I think you really got a chance to see the Elizabeth Warren that I've seen in these committee hearings. And the woman who takes no prisoners. I mean, none. Oh, I loved it. I loved it. So what did you think? Let me know what you think. 773-763-9278. 773-763-WCPT. You can also text to that number as well. Thank you, GWC Injury Lawyers, for that text line. But call me. 773-763-9278. 773-763-WCPT. I want to know what you thought about it. Was it, some people are calling it some in the mainstream media said that this was brutal. It wasn't brutal, it was a debate. And you saw the differences between the candidates. And at this point, this is what you're supposed to see. Oh, unity. No, when they say unity, that means the corporate structure wants those of us who are pushing for a progressive position to shut up. Fall into line behind Biden and Buttigieg and everybody else. No, that's not what this is. That's not what this time is for. You're supposed to be pushing for the issues and the positions that you want. Now, when we get to the convention, then there's time to compromise, and you're not going to get everything you want, but you can get most of, if not much of what you want, and you can also change directions of the party. But you got to vote now, not for the person who you think can get to the White House. That's in November. Right now, you have to vote for the person you want to get you to the White House. So don't listen to the mainstream media as they talk about electability. The guy who they say is so electable is losing. And bless his heart, last night, Vice President Biden, he looked like he did much better. But better is not great. Sanders was on fire. Warren was on fire. Klobuchar was on fire too. Warren was on fire. Ooh, she was on fire, and I loved it all. I loved it all. As we get into today's show, get into some of these headlines, as we speak to you about the debate, there were a couple of people who passed over the past couple of days, Lady B, who I just said, wait a minute, I've got to stop, and I did not mention this yesterday. Janae Dubois from Good Times, Willona. We all loved Willona. And, of course, if you saw I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker, she was the mother. I mean, she looked so fabulous, gorgeous woman. And she brought so much light and joy into our lives. At the age of 74, she went to bed and just didn't wake up. You never know, everybody. But I thank God for the wonderful legacy of her work. She brought us so much joy Lady B throughout our lives.
Yes, she did.
Oh my gosh, but not starting with Good Times, because she'd been in the business for a while. And of course, she wrote Moving On Up
Mm-hmm.
from the Jeffersons. She went to Norman Lear, the producer and creator of these shows. One of the creators, actually, two black guys from Chicago created Good Times. And so Eric Monte, and I can't believe I'm forgetting the other young man, but very, very talented young men. They created the show. And uh, Norman Lear allowed her to write and sing Moving On Up. So, she will live with us forever. And Bob Petty, how many of you remember Bob Petty in our growing up years? If you're of a certain age, if you grew up in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, you remember Bob Petty on television. And mind you, he's one of the groundbreaking journalists in our city and really in America. I remember the first time I went to, not the first time I went to Washington, but Lady B, I went to Washington. I was about 13, and I saw a black man anchoring the news. It was um, Max Robinson. And I have to tell you, just did something for me to see him anchoring the news. And then, of course, he went on to become the first African American to anchor a national broadcast on ABC. Um, and so, thank God rest his soul. But Bob Petty is in that league. Is in that league. About one of the few people we have remaining who's still very active is Art Norman. But he broke ground for us on ABC, and of course he produced public affairs programming on ABC. He died at the age of 79. He'd been struggling with cancer, and we just thank God for him and his wonderful work. And just had a fantastic reputation, but he was first and foremost a great husband, father, family man, brilliant professional, and a groundbreaker. And so we just thank God for him today. And Sharon Gist-Gilliam. I mean, you talk about someone who's paved the way for African Americans and women in city government. It was she. And as she grew up, stocking shelves in her parents' store, according to the obituary in the Sun-Times. But she was the city budget director for Mayor Harold Washington, the chief operating officer for Mayor Eugene Sawyer, chaired the CHA board for several years, and she became the CEO for the city under Mayor Richard Daley. And so we dedicate the show to these great groundbreaking people
Yes.
today. I said, wow, wow. And the author, Charles Portis, of True Grit, that classic, he passed away. I mean, a lot of people are, well, they're checking out, but guess what? They checked in. They lived their
Yes.
lives. How about that? So let's run through a few of these headlines before we bring on some of our callers, before we bring on our guests, so we can find out what, oh my goodness, Dwight McKee and attorney C.K. Hoffler and Robert Patillo and Aaron Connelly have to say about this incredible debate last night. Wow. According to BuzzFeed News, Bloomberg's fans think that he can beat Trump, but they didn't love how the debate went. What did you think about how the debate went, everybody? It was his first debate, and quite frankly, he's been out of public life, at least at that level, for about a decade. Of course, he was the mayor of New York City, but boy, he had a tough time last night. And in fact, according to this Vice article, he was destroyed in the first 3 minutes of the debate. And if you don't believe it, watch a replay of the debate, because Elizabeth Warren came in on him in a big way. So what do you think about that? Do you think that he'll be able to recover? How do you think this is going to impact his status as the emerging number 2 in the national race? What do you think about that? How will it impact him in Super Tuesday? Because that's what he is poised to really make his mark Super Tuesday. And according to The Guardian, this headline, cause of death, Elizabeth Warren. She was taking no prisoners last night. Cause of death, Elizabeth Warren? Yeah, she was not playing. Wow. And as people are talking about electability, we're seeing this from this Yahoo report. As Sanders and Bloomberg rise, Biden falls with sharp shifts in views of electability. It seems that more and more people are finding that Bernie Sanders might be more electable than they, at least in the mainstream media, is reporting, Lady B. They're, but boy, Bloomberg was soundly and roundly attacked by, well, it was a debate, everybody. It was a debate. And did you hear, wow,
Yes.
Elizabeth Warren called him an arrogant billionaire. She said Democrats take a huge risk if we just substitute one arrogant billionaire for another. Of course, she was standing next to Mike Bloomberg, and she was talking about him. Uh, oh, I just loved it all. You know, and I like being nice, but I also like being truthful. And it's a debate. And when you're in a debate, it's warfare, okay? And Sanders hit Bloomberg with this this statistic that is really, really, really stunning. He said, quote, Mike Bloomberg owns more wealth than the bottom 125 million Americans. That's wrong. That's immoral. That should not be the case when we got 500,000 people sleeping out on the street, when we have kids who cannot afford to go to college, when we have 45 million people dealing with student debt. Wow. You know, I have to tell you, I do not believe in, I think that we do have these vast disparities in wealth, and we should close that gap. But do I believe that the government should mandate that I can't own privately? No. But the way the system is structured, we are rewarding greed at the top and punishing need at the bottom and in the middle. We've got to do something about that. Got to do something about that. Socialism is already here, everybody. That's what you call the bailout. We privatize the profits of Wall Street, and we socialize their losses. That is, we pay for them. That's what socialism looks like. It just doesn't work for the common man. So, well, as they said in the New York Times, things got ugly fast. Bloomberg came close to going bust. Lots of takeaways from this debate, everybody. And so, we want to talk about that today. Did you know that 8 million Americans, Lady B, have been forced to start crowdfunding campaigns to cover their medical costs? Yeah. So while people are slamming Medicare for all, Americans are having to go online and raise money to pay for their medical care. Did you know that, Cortez? Yeah. Yeah. You need to know that because you're going to be voting in the fall, I know, and in March during the primary. I knew that. You couldn't sit here and not vote. Not working on the Santita Jackson show. How about that? According to this extraordinary report, this was a claim, Lady B, made at Westminster Magistrates Court over in England. They said that Donald Trump offered Julian Assange a pardon if he denied Russia, the Russia link to the hack of the Democratic Party. Now, the White House has denied it, but the charge was made over in England. Wow. And, of course, Roger Stone will be sentenced. It's been moved ahead after the judge refused a new trial request. So he will be sentenced today. We'll see how that goes, and we'll see if he'll be pardoned. And something extraordinary happened yesterday. John Bolton, former NSC advisor, and of course Susan Rice, former NSC advisor, well, she actually rebuked him for withholding Trump testimony at a public event yesterday. Isn't that interesting? Wow. And President Trump is under fire for appointing a loyalist, Richard Grenell, to oversee the spy agencies. He's come under fire because Richard Grenell has no experience in that space. Wow. Oh, it's just too much, everybody. The Rangers over the Blackhawks, 6-3. The Hornets will be playing the Bulls tonight at 7, and today it's cold. It's 15 degrees right now, and it is freezing. Maybe a high of 20 degrees. I don't feel it yet, everybody. I don't feel it yet. So let's get to this debate, and I want to hear what you all have to say about it. 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278. What did you think about it? I have to tell you, I loved it last night. If all the debates are going to be like this, you know, I won't fall asleep. No, okay? So call us. We want to know what you think. We're bringing on, of course, Aaron Connelly, C.K. Hoffler. We're going to have Dwight McKee and Attorney Patillo on, right, Lady B? So we're going to get them up in just a hot second. But since we got the ladies here, let me first go to you, Attorney C.K. Hoffler, President-elect of the National Bar Association, and then you, Aaron Connelly. You both get a minute apiece, and then we'll, of course, we'll really mix it up on the other side of the break. Attorney Hoffler, what did you see? Oh, no worries. Can you hear me now? Oh, you know what? What we're going to do is put her on hold, so that let's get that together. You know what? Let me grab one of these callers. So we want to make sure that Aaron and CK are are good. Let me go to Pam. Pam, what's on your mind? Oh, hey Pam, what's going on, girl? I got about a minute.
Elizabeth Warren showed out, and who prepared Bloomberg for that debate? He was horrible. Did you hear his response? Horse-faced lesbians? I mean, and his apology, Santita, was woefully inadequate. So are we saying that we just want a watered-down version of Trump? We need to return some decency to the White House. And Elizabeth Warren, thoughtful in her policies, talking about Medicare for all. Because I heard Pete Buttigieg, his plan isn't going to cover what? We have 87 million people, either uninsured or underinsured, if not more. Then closing the loopholes. For me, it is clear. I would be happy with either Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders. We have got to get this health care issue. It is a right and not a privilege. And Bloomberg, his money got him that far, but his debating and his answers to his policies, it didn't do it for me. And I don't know why he was voted, 3 times as mayor. We need decency in the White House, Santita. Is that asking too much? Not perfection, but some decency.
Look, Pam, I'm with you. I'm totally, totally with you. So what do you all think? Do you all agree with Pam? Were you surprised by Mayor Bloomberg's presentation last night? Were you surprised by Elizabeth Warren? Call me at 773-763-9278. Back in just a minute.
You're listening to WCPT.
No worries. I'm just trying to be obedient to the 30.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
that's fine.
And I knew you had to get out, but I was really trying to be obedient to that.
Do you like the mic like this? Or
No, not
would
at
you like
all.
to-
But I was trying to get on the air.
Yes. Yeah, bring it down a
Oh,
little.
no, watch out, watch
I
out,
got
watch
you.
out, watch that. Thank you.
Blue Island Ave, 8 Expressway out.
That's fine?
Okay, did we get CK straight? Okay, great.
Looking
Okay,
at about
perfect.
25 minutes
Thank
longer
you.
at the Lake Cook, inbound 18. About Kennedy tracks a little slow, Harlem to Austin, inbound.
Now, did we get Patillo? Why is
He's calling them right now.
Okay, why is it seems like there's a line on line 5? Is it
Yeah,
blocked?
that's what he's calling them.
Oh, okay.
Ryan, 20 minutes from 95th. 5:57, okay, it's Ford, 21 minutes.
So what do you all think? Let me know. What did you think about the debate? All my morning stars over here. 773-763-9278. Now, Chappelle, you know you want to call in. Or maybe you want to call in for the vasectomies in the next. I think she wants to call in for the vasectomies. I think you do. Yeah, in the next hour, we're going to be talking about this proposal in Alabama that men have vasectomies at 50 or after the birth of their third biological child, and it was brought forth after Alabama after Alabama voted in the most restrictive abortion laws in the country. So this state representative Rolanda Hollis, African American woman, she said, look, okay, well then, if you're going to restrict women, if you're going to tinker in our bodies, we need to deal with men in theirs.
From elected officials, candidates, and fellow Democrats. Get your tickets at DePageDemocrats.com.
But in the meantime, tell me what you think about this debate. I really, really want to know what you thought about it. If you felt that that it was a solid debate. I enjoyed it. I really did. Because you know what? It felt like a real debate. Everybody's not agreeing with everybody. Think about that. We can't, now is the time for us to find out how people are thinking. But I really feel like, Lady B, I feel like the real Elizabeth Warren showed up.
Huh?
I think like the real Elizabeth Warren showed up last night.
Yes, I know.
This is the Elizabeth Warren I have seen. She and Joe Biden have locked horns down through the years, everybody.
He didn't do much, but she
loved
yes,
it.
yes. She was on point.
Loved it.
And then I loved the way it was Sanders when he brought those numbers.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, it's so true, and Bloomberg proved Bloomberg. You saw his face. he didn't know what to say because it's true.
Well, you look. Well, Sanders is like going for broke, and I'm glad. Now's the time for everybody to come with it.
Yep.
Come on with it right now. Oh yeah.
Trusted since 1901.
But it was his first debate, so we'll see.
Preferred network pharmacy with United Healthcare, Cigna,
Okay.
and Express
Yeah,
Scripts
but
Medicare.
Biden didn't
Walgreens
do
participates with
so
other
well.
plans. See Walgreens.com/Medicare for details.
No, he didn't.
No.
This is John Greenhouse, and if your teeth are stained from coffee, tea, or smoking, Power Swabs is the answer. In 5 minutes, you'll see 2 shades whiter teeth, and in 7 days, 6 shades. Even better, there's no messy strips or trays that you'll have to leave in your mouth for an hour. Just swab
we're
your
coming
teeth
back
for 5
in
minutes, and
15
you're done.
seconds.
To try Power Swabs, call 1-800-679-0969. Your bright white smile will have your friends talking about how great you look. Try it risk-free. 1-800-679-0969. That's 1-800-679-0969.
You're listening to WCPT
Oh, my
820
goodness.
because
Love
facts
it.
matter.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show on WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. Call us at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. What did you think about the debates last night? The debate. I want you to decide. I heard what the pundits had to say. I heard them pontificate. But I want to know what you thought. What did you think yesterday about the debate? I mean, and I tell you, everybody, call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT, and let's talk about it. Of course, reach out to me on Facebook on the Santita Jackson and Friends page with my morning stars. And, of course, like and share, and then meet us over on YouTube on the Santita Jackson Show. Like and subscribe, please. Like and subscribe. Well, Elizabeth Warren got it started. She said, I'd like to talk about who we're running against. A billionaire who calls women fat broads and horse-faced lesbians. No, I'm not talking about Donald Trump. I'm talking about Mayor Bloomberg. Boom. Attorney C.K. Hoffler.
That was a boom. And yesterday was a boom, boom, and then more boom. Well, I wasn't surprised. I think what intrigued me was that Elizabeth Warren came front center and put it right out there in that way.
Yes.
That intrigued me. But I wasn't surprised that Bloomberg appeared to be so ill-prepared, because that's not, this level of political battle and contest is not his comfort zone. His comfort zone is in, and don't get me wrong, New York is really a tough political landscape as well. But his background, much like our president's background, lends itself to much intense criticism on issues that are important to a lot of people now. And that's his vulnerability. And somehow, somewhere in the world, with all the resources that he had, his team didn't prepare him adequately. His record is well known. Every aspect of his record is well known. Every aspect of his personal life, the settlements, his conduct, his behavior was well known because he's been a public figure. So why he was so woefully unprepared is beyond me. It's beyond me.
Aaron Connelly, what did you think?
I thought it was the most entertaining debate by far. And I agree with the callers. I agree with Attorney Hoffler as well. Elizabeth Warren needed this type of performance. We saw early in the week, polls were being done without her name included, which never really happened for a front runner. But she needed a really strong showing last night, and she showed up. The response on social media, I'm sure you saw as well, Santita, was overwhelmingly supportive of Elizabeth Warren. Even people that had voted for other people were saying, I wish I would have voted for Elizabeth Warren. She struck a balance of what I saw someone say, competence and adequate rage. And for women, listening to those allegations that they had not known about Mr. Bloomberg's character and pattern of behavior, they certainly learned a lot last night. And I think hearing those examples really does bring up the conversation of who are we as Democrats? What do we stand for? Do we want to bring another billionaire who we think can win the ad buy battle, or are we going to stand up for who we are, talk about the big things like healthcare, women's rights, equality, climate change, and not just climate change, but environmental justice, which she brought up, which I was really excited to see. And she was able to come to the defense of Amy Klobuchar, who also, I think, brought a lot of intensity and got a lot of criticism. But her exchange with Pete Buttigieg was quite entertaining.
Can you say epic? I thought it was great. I mean, look, we're seeing these women now who are coming, I think, as their authentic selves. I mean, and I really loved that. I have to tell you, as a woman, I loved it. I mean, because they came ready, and I think that, to be fair, getting on that stage, we can imagine, is not easy, and it can be intimidating. And I think that, now the bloom is off the rose for Warren and for Klobuchar, and for everybody except Bloomberg.
And I think, the reason why he came off so unprepared, I think it's just the fact that he is a billionaire, that he's been isolated and insulated from criticism for quite a long time. He was mayor of New York City. He's a billionaire. He runs a powerful news organization. He has, a lot of people around him that, depend on him for their livelihood. Often you don't get the most constructive criticism operating in that environment.
Well, let me go to the gentleman. Not that I was lining it up that way. We were just trying to get you all on the phone. Attorney Robert Patillo, how are you? What did you think of the debate last night?
I'm doing great, Santita. This, to quote one of the big moments from the 90s, this is what happens when people stop being nice and start being real. This was the debate.
I love it.
People understand that this is your last shot, that we are going into Nevada and then South Carolina, and then in Super Tuesday, and in 2 weeks, this field will be half as big. And it was interesting seeing the battle lines being drawn. We saw Warren give up on being the left-wing favorite of the party and start appealing to moderates and start attacking more of the moderates. She did not go after Biden or did not go after Bernie, who would be her most natural competition, and started going after some of the moderate candidates. You saw Pete Buttigieg continue to attack Amy Klobuchar to be the centrist alternative to Bernie. You also saw Bloomberg. This is the thing now that people have to learn about online dating. That you can see somebody on the internet, you can see the radio, you can see them on TV, but until you meet them in person and talk to them in person, you have no idea who that person is. And I think it was a strategic mistake by Bloomberg's campaign to put him out there to debate. He had absolutely nothing to gain by debating. He had went from 0% to number 2 nationally just by running commercials. They should not have had him out there, quite frankly, knowing his record, knowing the other candidates would be attacking him, knowing that he hasn't debated anybody in 10 years. And many of us saw this coming by having an understanding of his record. And I think the vetting process will be very intense going forward. What will be interesting, however, is for us political junkies, us people who like to watch politics, we're watching the debate in the middle of the week, late at night. Will this message get repeated to enough people prior to Super Tuesday to affect his poll numbers? Will you see him drop in the polls as a result of this, or will he have enough money to simply paper over it? And it's an inflection point for our democracy. Whether or not we are okay with the idea of someone being able to buy the election, regardless of their personal record, regardless of what their policies are, because Bloomberg seemed bored to be there, that he was annoyed to be around all these poor, petty millionaires who don't have enough money to really be around him. And I think that he's going to have issues going forward once he's no longer speaking the voice of a narrator and the voice of a endorser, but rather when he has to speak in his own voice, whether or not that can appeal to voters. So it was by far my favorite and most entertaining debate of the entire season.
Loved it. Dwight McKee, what say you? You have been saying that charisma is an issue, or the lack thereof, for Mayor Bloomberg, and you sound just like Robert Patillo. Attorney Patillo has been saying, online dating is one thing, but when you get in the thick of dating, when you get in the thick of engaging with someone is a whole different matter. What did you think about last night?
Well, I did say that you could buy a lot of money, can buy a lot of things, but it can't buy charisma. I think that Bloomberg was the best thing that could have happened to Elizabeth Warren. She became her Sonny Liston to Cassius Clay. She needed somebody to beat up on, and she found a willing subject in him. And so she effectively turned him into Donald Trump light. And I think that she's going to benefit tremendously, and I think that he is going to have problems going forward. I agree with the panel. He was ill prepared, but I think that given his record, is only so much he could have been prepared for, because his record stands for itself, and it's hard to spin an object that is so grounded in negativity. So I think that she effectively drew him in, set him up, and knocked him out. In terms of the rest of the field, I think that they really have to figure out how to neutralize Bernie, because I think Bernie has the momentum, he has the base, he has the passion, and to be able to maintain the money. And so my thoughts is that they are now conspiring, the Democratic National Committee and the candidates, is how they can stop him, because I think that they feel like he's the biggest threat to the party, because he's really almost operating without the party, almost contrary to the party. And so I think it's probably in their interest to make sure at the convention that they build a wall around him and isolate him and put one of their conventional candidates up.
How would that work out?
Oh, I think it's going to be a bloodbath. I think it's going to be bedlam at the convention as they try to figure out how to create an alternative to Bernie. They raised a key question last night, is that would you support the person who is leading? Bernie will probably walk away with 30 to 40% of the delegates after Super Tuesday, and nobody last night said that they would support him if that was the case. So I figured that Milwaukee is going to be a bloodbath. Who's going to be able to neutralize Bernie and become the emerging candidate. And I think that's going to be anybody from Hillary to, I think it's going to be anybody but Bernie convention. That's what I think.
Well, let me open it up to the rest of the panel. CK, Robert, Aaron, what do you think? First you, CK. Oh no, Robert, go on, please.
Okay, Corral. I think we are everybody shooting bullets here and there. I was just surprised that Bloomberg was so woefully unprepared. His record is his record, but he knew it was his record, and he knew he was going to have to at some point debate somebody. So his preparation should have been intact. He clearly was brought down to real size and now understands what this is going to mean. So I think that that's going to impact, in particular, potentially, how African Americans view him. And because he's banking on, and it's been millions and millions of dollars trying to court the black vote. And I do think his performance yesterday is potentially could have a significant impact on African Americans and asking questions, because he didn't respond well to anything. He didn't score a single point. He was taking points away. His performance was so bad that there were points taken off the table. He may have started out with a 10. He ended up with a negative 50. So I think that the impact could be on, we could see the black voters, black and brown voters, but particularly black voters. Secondly, I think that Elizabeth Warren has shown that she can she has what it takes to potentially fight Donald Trump. But I do agree with our previous commentator that the biggest issue that the party has right now and is going to have is Bernie Sanders, because he is saying things that resonate with people. He does have a following. He is raising the money, but many don't believe that he can win, that he just simply can't win. Many people believe that. So the party is in a hot mess. It was in a mess before, but now it's in a hot mess. And hopefully at the convention, that there will be resolute, there will be confirmation that the party will stand behind one candidate. So they need to get it out their system. And I was entertained and intrigued by what I saw yesterday, but I felt that it put the party in a worse position because it's just a mess. It's just a mess. And we have to, if you're a Democrat, right now you're scratching your head saying, what do we stand for? What are we doing? Where are we going? And who's going to be our leader?
But you know what I think that the real mess is? And, before we go to the callers, the thing is, we are populist, really, in our thinking. But the party has become corporatist in its politics and its practices. And so we are on a collision course. I mean, because people have I just read in the headlines, 8 million Americans are crowdfunding for their medical bills.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Medicare so when I hear Biden and Buttigieg talking, they're talking, God, who are you talking to? And who are you talking for? Because what you're saying is not resonating with the people who I heard in that audience. It's not resonating with the rank and file in the culinary union. It's not resonating with the rank and file from the IBEW that just endorsed Biden, but 1,200 of their members said, no, we want to rescind the endorsement because he's not speaking for us. You're seeing a break between union leadership and rank and file. So please jump in, everybody.
Yeah, and I think that goes to good. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Go on, Aaron, and then you, Robert.
About healthcare, and I think that was the big contrast that we saw in the candidates, right? And I've talked many times in the show about being a type 1 diabetic, and Elizabeth Warren was explicit in bringing up diabetes and the cost of insulin, which I thought, of course, was great. But you could see the contrast when we're talking about healthcare on that stage. And I have the same question for Vice President Biden and Mayor Pete. Was who are you speaking with? Have you sat down with these families that are actually sharing insulin, that have children that they have to check on 16 times a night to make sure that they haven't gone low and are ready for the day, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know who they're speaking to in the communities that say, yes, I want to keep my insurance. This current system is working for me. And if I have a medical emergency, I'm fine with potentially going bankrupt or having to do a GoFundMe for thousands and thousands of dollars. That's the reality. And that is what, as we saw in the last midterm election, people are motivated to vote by that issue. And I did not hear enough solutions on a portion of that stage. I also just wanted to say that I think Joe Biden did have a better night. I thought it was an interesting contrast that he made for himself against Mayor Bloomberg, and brought up some of his better policies as vice president, and outlined a little bit more about what he would do in an active sense. So I did think he had a better night than previous debate nights.
Robert Patillo, before we go to the callers.
Yeah, I think also we have to understand that Bernie has a mass advantage in the race, in that right now it is 5-on-1. That you have 5 people going for the same pool of voters. So you have Klobuchar, Biden, Buttigieg, also Bloomberg with his hundreds of millions of dollars, and then now Warren even trying to appeal to the moderate wing of the party. So Bernie, with his very solid 25 to 28% of the vote, that's about what he got in Iowa. That's about what he got in New Hampshire. he's able to get a plurality. So I think once you start seeing the other moderate candidates dropping out, I think you may see Klobuchar out after Nevada. I think you might see Buttigieg out after South Carolina going into Super Tuesday. That's when we'll start getting a real understanding of exactly the will of the electorate. But Bernie can just sit there and watch all the moderates fight it out, and then continue saying the same what she said for the last 40 years, which is an absolute advantage for him.
Let me go to you, Mark. Mark from Bronzeville. What's on your mind?
Oh, well, first of all, I thought that hold on 1 second. Please give me half a second. Alexa, stop.
Are you kidding me? Mark, you're on the radio. Seriously? Come on, honey.
Okay, here we go. I thought it was quite exciting. I like the debate. I like the topics that were brought up. I am not moved. I still do not think. I think the only person that can win will be Bloomberg. I'm more and more committed to that. I think he answered the response as well, and then he brought out some things that it's like I've been holding in and saying I don't want to have this conversation. But the very fact is when Bernie Sanders talks about billionaires and millionaires, he talks as if there's some distant thing, and he is a millionaire. And he has been a millionaire.
But but hold on, but Mark, I don't think that's the problem. I mean, because he is a millionaire. He needs to be because retirement doesn't work for anybody. I think what he's talking about is the greed at the top, and he has his belief system. Eliminating a millionaire or billionaire class is not the thing, and he is a millionaire, sure. But I'm intrigued by your support for Bloomberg, or your growing closeness, your growing affinity for him, even after, last night was his first debate. He can of course get better. Please explain. You got about a minute.
Well, what it is that I really want not only somebody who can win, but somebody his position on gun control. The fact that and the only difference between being a millionaire, the two billionaires between him and Michael Bloomberg is, I know that Michael Bloomberg has put money in other people's campaigns. And I know that Bernie Sanders has had the opportunity to do that for the progressive Democratic Socialist movement, and he has not done that. And he hasn't done it for a long time. In a long time, he's had the opportunity to do it, and he's let it fall in the wind. I know that I don't want to. If you want to, I will tell you my impression, is that the Sanders supporters, in their selfish ways, in all of their being progressive and being socialist, they're mean. And not only are they mean, they're not fair. And they don't believe, and there is a thing about, which I don't think that are real democratic socialists. I think they're just top people who feel that they're entitled to power, who are deprived of power.
But Mark, I think you need to be very. But Mark, hold on, whoa. Because I know a lot of Sanders supporters, and that's not fair. And I've seen a lot of supporters in a lot of different camps who are zealous and who can be mean-spirited. I think a lot of what we're hearing about Sanders supporters, I think it's another way of slamming Bernie Sanders. You can't control all of your supporters, of course. The leader has a responsibility to cultivate a particular tone. But we're also living in a time where people are very, very upset. They're upset. They are upset. But this whole thing about all of his supporters being so mean, I don't agree with that. I really don't. I do not. But let me get some closing thoughts from everybody here. Always love hearing from you. Always love hearing from you, Mark. Let me see. I want to get some closing thoughts from all of you on the other side of the break, just at the top of the hour. Would you mind just waiting just for a few more minutes? Okay, great, because I do want to get closing thoughts from all of you, because I think there's a lot for us to really tease out. This is the first big debate, and as you pointed out, Attorney Patillo, in the coming weeks it's going to look very different, and I think that I think that the positions are going to become more clear, and I think that the debates are going to be sharper. Let me put it that way. And I think this is the time for that to happen. Should we have a bloodbath here? No. But I think that we need to make ourselves clear. I think that whatever you stand for, you need to say it now. You need to say it. And when we get to the convention, I think we need to work it out. That certainly is my hope and my prayer. But the leadership at the top, they have the responsibility to cultivate an atmosphere where we can walk away from that convention feeling good about each other. Really. And I'm just wondering if that's going to happen. Wondering. Attorney C.K. Hoffler and Aaron Connelly, Dwight McKee, and Attorney Robert Patillo are going to get some closing thoughts from you about last night's debate on the Santita Jackson Show. Next up, vasectomies. You know, Alabama passed the most restrictive abortion laws in the country, and so a woman in the state legislature said, you know what? Okay, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. What needs to happen is men need to now, your bodies need to be subject to some restrictions too. Vasectomies at 50, everyone. How about that? I hear a lot of crossed legs, and the guys on our panel, Aaron and CK, they're not saying anything. Okay.
They feel some kind of way.
They're feeling some kind of way in many ways. More of the Santita Jackson Show, WCPT 820. Oh, I love it. Too rich. I feel like this. We'll get closing thoughts from them, and then we'll go right into it. Oh, I love it.
Save up to $5 on Medicare Part D copays when Walgreens is your preferred pharmacy. Copay savings on Tier 1 generic drugs
well,
available through
you have to be able to get
Walgreens
some giggles and laughs in. You know. But it's a serious topic. But boy, oh boy, you talk about a great. This is going to be real interesting. And I do believe, and just think, we'll be in San Francisco. We'll be up in San Francisco. We'll be in Milwaukee. Oh, that's the beautiful part.
They calling in.
Oh, because they want to talk about this.
Democratic socialism. We're not going to throw out capitalism.
No.
We tried that. Other countries tried
We
that.
We did get Dr. Wade.
There was tension between Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar over immigration.
I know CK said she was saying, but let me confirm it again, though.
Yeah, just confirm. Oh, yeah, they want to talk about this. Snap, snap.
That Verlaine calling in.
Klobuchar pointed out this to the former mayor of South Bend, Indiana.
You have not been in the arena doing that work. You've memorized a bunch of talking points and a bunch of things, but I can tell you one thing. What the people of this country want, they want a leader that has
You sticking around for the factory and
vasectomy legislation? President Trump was at a rally in Phoenix.
Now they have a new member of the crew, Mini Mike.
Okay.
No boxes. We call them no boxes. And I hear he's getting pounded tonight. You know he's in a debate.
Sentencing is set for later today in Washington for an ally of President Trump, Roger Stone. The recommended sentence for Stone was altered by Attorney General William Barr. The prosecutors who are working on the Roger Stone case have quit.
Okay,
Officials
good deal.
in Germany say a man shot and killed 9 people at several locations in a Frankfurt suburb in attacks that appeared to have been motivated by far-right
She's gonna stick around until her office texts her coming.
Found dead at his home. This is AP News.
Let me tell her that.
Coronavirus cases have declined again in China.
The new figure is a notable drop from the 1,749 cases recorded the previous day. China's National Health Commission says just under 280 cases were deducted from the daily report after nucleic acid tests showed negative results. It's now discounting cases that come back negative after lab tests. The reduction in new cases in China can also be accounted for by health workers ceasing to diagnose patients on the spot and further refinements in the way symptoms are classified. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
2 elderly passengers taken off the quarantine cruise ship Diamond Princess in Japan because they were infected with coronavirus have died.
South Korea reported its first death from coronavirus after the mayor of a southeastern city urged his 2.5 million people not to go outside. 9 people in all have died from coronavirus outside mainland
Not to go
China.
outside.
Ed
Lord.
Donahue, AP News.
This is 8:20 a.m.
Yeah,
WCPT Willow
coronavirus.
Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com.
And the doctor that
we are
was
Chicago's
working on
progressive
died.
talk, where facts matter. Now your
Where that
WCPT
came
820
from.
Chicago traffic update.
Expect delays in Lakeport. It's 43 and 60 with
The Chappelle told you they banned her from Facebook. They put her on Facebook jail because she was talking about So she's on YouTube. Exactly. I can talk about it on YouTube.
Well, ask her, can she,
Outbound
can she
25 minutes to
forward
the
my
airport.
show?
Eisenhower, 39 minutes, 390 to downtown.
So she's in
Outbound
Facebook
31.
jail?
Johnson, 42 minutes, 355 to the drive. Ryan, 26 minutes for 95th. I-57, 22 minutes, 90 to the
Yes, be rolling over here.
Everybody, did you know that?
You can talk to her. She's
Chappelle's in Facebook jail.
Traffic, I'm just
I was like, you should have known better. We just said in the headlines a couple of weeks ago that Trump and the owner of the Facebook are together. So that's why. So they won't talk about them. Talk about them.
At a store near you.
We're blocking you.
It's Mattress Firm's
Pearl,
President's Day
Pearl,
$600
Pearl.
king bed at a queen price and a queen for a twin.
Oh.
Sort of perfect sleeper queen mattress now just $499.99.
I
Plus,
mean.
they come a free adjustable base when you spend just $499. Don't wait. Visit mattressfirm.com or a store near you for our best deal of the year. Your budget stretches further. At Mattress Firm. Offer valid with qualifying purchase.
I was like, are you serious? She's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
yes.
Oh, yeah. Only heaven knows what Chappelle said about President Trump.
Coffee, tea, or smoking. Power swabs is the answer. In 5 minutes, you'll see 2 shades whiter
Love
teeth,
it.
and in 7 days,
Love you,
6 shades.
Chappelle.
Even better, there's no messy strips or trays that you have to leave in your mouth for an hour.
Yikes.
Just swab your teeth for 5 minutes.
20
And you're done.
seconds.
To try Power Swabs, call
Okay.
1-800-679-0969. Your bright white smile will have your friends talking about how great you look. Try it risk-free. 1-800-679-0969. That's 1-800-679-0969.
Chicago's progressive talk. WCPT 820, where facts matter. Wake up, Chicago. This is the Santita Jackson Show.
The Santita Jackson Show on WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. Oh my goodness, we're streaming live on the Santita Jackson and Friends page on Facebook. Please like and share. Like and share. We're having a wonderful conversation this morning about the debates last night. And, of course, we're on YouTube on the Santita Jackson Show. And like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe. And call us at 773-763-WCPT, 773-763-9278. You can also send us a text on that line. Thank you, GWC Injury Lawyers, for that text capacity. We want to know what you think. What did you think of the debate? It seems like the gloves were off, and we've had a tremendous panel here, and we're going to get closing thoughts from them because we're going to talk about something else, an election 2020 issue, reproductive rights. As you know, Alabama enacted, legislated the most restrictive reproductive laws in the country. I mean, these legislators even went so far as to forbid abortion, even in the case of rape or incest. They dialed that back. But in the meantime, a state representative there, Rolanda Hallis, said, you know what? Okay, so we're looking at women and what they need to do with their bodies. Okay, so what about men? Men should have vasectomies at 50 or after the birth of their third biological child. What do you think about that? And even as the lines are busy, continue to call 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Interestingly enough, Senator Ted Cruz, his response was, yikes. Oh, so when we're talking about me, it's not a problem, but when we talk about you, you're running for the hills, crossing your legs and whatnot. Okay, so I mean, because that's really what's going on here. So we're going to talk about that, but we're talking about the debate and we're getting closing thoughts from Attorney Robert Patillo, Dwight McKee, Aaron Connelly, and, Attorney C.K. Hoffler is going to give us a legal perspective on what's happening in Alabama. But so let me get to you, Attorney Robert Patillo, your closing thoughts on the debates. What should we be looking at, particularly as we look at Nevada on Saturday?
Well, I think what we need to be looking at is the way that Donald Trump got the Republican nomination in 2016 wasn't because he was the most popular candidate. Right. Wasn't because he was carrying a majority of Republicans in the primary. It was because Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, Jeb Bush, and some of the other candidates stayed in far after they had a path to victory. And that allowed Donald Trump to simply have a polarity of support as opposed to a majority of support. So some of these candidates have to start looking at themselves and their staffs and that's like in the eye and determining whether or not they have a realistic chance of the nomination, and if not, to start wrapping up and figuring out who they're going to endorse. So you have a real contest where you have a majority going into the convention, because a bloodbath doesn't help anybody except for Donald Trump. So they need to start figuring out and making some compromises. This is a point in time back in the old days where the quote-unquote party bosses would come in and settle the field. We don't have those anymore, so some serious conversations have to be had.
We still have party bosses. Mm-hmm. We sure do. Oh, did I say that? Oh, sorry. Let me go to you, Aaron Connelly.
I'm really excited to see the results in Nevada. After working there in the 2012 cycle, I think it's a more representative view of our nation. And so I'm excited to see what happens there. But I think we are finally at the place where we're, as you said, the authentic candidates are starting to come out. We see them recognizing that this is the end and they need to leave it all on the field. I think they are, and I think we'll have an opportunity to really see how they're going to operate under pressure, how they respond to attack, and who we want at the top of our ticket on stage debating Donald Trump on the issues, but also can they stand up for what they believe in a real way that resonates and connects. And I think we're finally at that place. And hopefully, people that are still undecided, and I think there are more people undecided than we realize, in this work and having these conversations all the time in politics, people are still struggling to make up their minds and do wait till the last minute in many cases. So I think we'll see people picking more sides. So anxious to see what those polls look like, and hopefully Elizabeth Warren will be included in all of them this time.
Absolutely. Dwight McKee, your final thought?
I wonder if Bloomberg would have implemented stop and frisk in Boys Town if Mark would be so aggressive before him. I think that it's almost the same issue as the vasectomy issue, is that it's fine if he does it to other people, just don't do it to me. The advantage of coming out of this convention with a front runner like Bernie or like Elizabeth Warren is that there's such a stark contrast to Donald Trump. People will be able to make a real choice. I think that once you get into the moderate side of the Democratic Party, it is almost, again, Republican light, and so it's very hard to create a contrast. Now, some folks see it as an advantage because they say, well, if you don't have that big a contrast, then those moderate Democrats could pull in some of the Trump voters. I think that's a high risk. I think we make more progress by trying to excite the other crowd, the disenfranchised crowd, the crowd that has more to gain and more to lose. That by drawing a contrast in issues like healthcare and like education, and like the criminal justice issues, I think that it gives us an opportunity to pull new voters in. The reason we won in the last 20 years, last 30 years, Santita, is because your father had the insight
the poor 7 million people who was outside the process, inside the process. And the ones that benefited from that were Clinton and Obama, and the party in general. We need another situation, I think, that somebody can create that kind of enthusiasm and that kind of drama in a party.
That's the only way we can win. Because remember, in the middle of, at the height of the Reagan Revolution in 1986, after the presidential run of Reverend Jackson, after he'd registered more than 2.5 million voters, the Democrats reclaimed the Senate. Because Reverend walked out of that convention in 1984, continuing to campaign. He never stopped. He never stopped. He never stopped. And that's why I'm eager to see this current crop, the Kamalas, the Obamas, the Cory Bookers. They need to get out here and excite people and get them registered to vote. They need to be going to all the high schools. That's what they need to do. You already have the template. So Attorney Robert Patillo and Dwight McKee and Aaron Connelly, I'm about to make you a McConnelly. It's not March 17th yet. No, girl. not yet. And you don't need an MC for that. But that's my mother's birthday too. So it's too rich. Yes, March 17th. My mother, the blackest woman in America, was born on St. Patrick's Day. It's all good. Please, we celebrate that too. It's all good. We're one human family. Love you all. Stay right here, Attorney C.K. Hoffler, because we got to look at the legal implications as we take all of these callers about, and as we welcome Dr. Brenda Wade onto the show. Let's move Dr. Wade all the way down, because I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of people who want to talk about this. Got to talk about the suggestion that there are mandatory vasectomies at 50. Alabama last year enacted one of the toughest anti-abortion laws in the country. And in fact, the first iteration of this law would not allow abortions, even in the cases of rape and incest. So there was a little pushback against that. But that having been said, Rolanda Hollis, who is a state representative in Alabama, she said, okay, if we're going to be this restrictive with women, what we need to do is, let us, because it takes two to tango, as she said. So what we need to do is we need to have men have mandatory vasectomies at 50, or after the birth of their third child, whichever comes first. This way, we won't have to worry about these unwanted pregnancies. Now, will we? Attorney C.K. Hoffler, what say you?
Well,
a deep pause, really?
When I say the deep pause, because I have to breathe hard on this one. What she's saying is what goes for the goose goes for the gander. And goes for the gander goes for the goose. While I know that probably every man that hears this is probably hyperventilating or doing something similar, I do think that government should not be in the business of telling men or women what we could do or can do with our bodies. That's the fundamental issue. This Alabama, the reason why this is happening, and I can't say that I don't agree with either. I don't believe that the government should legislate that. If a woman is raped by her uncle, for instance, and is pregnant, she should have the right to determine whether she is going to have an abortion. Actually, she should have the right to determine whether she is going to have an abortion even if she's not raped. So that when you have this draconian law, this draconian rule where there are real women every single day that are suffering, because the reality is, if someone wants to have an abortion, they'll figure out a way to do it. And we're going to go back to these clinics or the people in the back rooms performing procedures in an unsanitary, unsafe way that will put women at risk. That's what happens when you have these draconian laws where government imposes itself on legislating reproductive rights. So I'm not in favor of that. So I'm not in favor of what the representative is saying in Alabama, but I do believe that if you're going to mandate one thing for one, you got to mandate something for the other. I don't know if it's a vasectomy, but there's got to be some way of neutralizing government's intrusion in reproductive rights. And this is what this representative has come up, Representative Hollis came up with as a solution. I think it's just as draconian as legislating abortion, particularly in the case of incest and rape and the like. But this is what is going to happen and continue to happen in jurisdictions if they start if government starts to insinuate itself more and more in legislating reproductive rights.
Well, you know, it's very interesting, and I hear you, because I think that, you know, the government should not be inside of our bodies. I agree with you on that. But it's interesting, you know, Ted Cruz, Senator Ted Cruz from Texas, who's one of the most conservative, should I say, I'll say he's one of the most staunchly anti-abortion senators in the U.S. Senate. He absolutely said his response was on Twitter, "Yikes! A government big enough to give you everything is big enough to take everything, literally." But you know, and that was to me so male. You know, he made it about his gonads, literally. And instead of looking at two people who created a life and two people who have to work this out, I thought it was very, very interesting that he would push back against a vasectomy. No, don't touch that, literally.
I believe every man in the world would push back against that. But I think what is hypocritical and what is unfortunate is that the debate does not take into consideration whatsoever Ted Cruz's position and the position of many. Those positions do not take into consideration the fundamental right of a woman to be able to decide what happens to her body. It should be her right to do that. And so it's not, you know, it's like, and so I think it's hypocritical. It's very, very hypocritical. And it's unfortunate. And what's laying in the wind are these women, and as I said, young girls, women who have been raped, women who have been incest. If they want to have an abortion, they're going to figure out a way to have it done, to get it done. And now we're going to have a healthcare issue. Because whenever you have draconian laws like this, what emerges is a group of quote-unquote healthcare professionals or people who will just do it, whether they have a license or not, in some remote place, in some back room, because there's going to be a market. There will be a black market for abortions, and they'll figure it out. They'll figure out how to do it. And that's very, very unsafe. It's very unsanitary, and it would just put more women at risk.
But we're bringing... Oh, I'm sorry.
Responsibility for making a baby, and both people have to take responsibility for what we do once you do make the baby.
Well, you know, Dr. Brenda Wade, you know, Attorney C.K. Hoffler, we had to bring her on because this has so many implications, and there are so many issues that are at play here. Dr. Brenda Wade, welcome home. So both of you are at home, you and C.K. Hoffler. What do you make of this law? What do you make of all of this? Ted Cruz's reaction to this, and you know, we got a lot of callers, but we need to hear from you. What?
Attorney Hoffler, it's always a pleasure. And yes, this is one of those issues that if you can spell sexism, if you can spell racism, if you can spell oppression of people who are poor, oppression of women, clearly that's what we're talking about at the bottom of this. And Attorney Hoffler, you just made the point that so many of the women who might feel they need to seek abortion are young women. Now, I just have to say, the brain isn't complete for a woman until the age of 24, a man 26. And I do think it's just desserts that Ted Cruz and everyone else who's been anti-choice is now looking at the implications of a man's choice being taken away. And oh, isn't it a different feeling when the shoe is on the other foot? Now, it's very important to recognize young women are often coerced. We did a show, Santita, you remember, not that long ago, talking about the fact that a very, very high percentage of young women have their first sexual experience as coercion of some sort, if not out-and-out rape. And it's very important to recognize that those young women may end up with an unwanted pregnancy as a result of that coercion. Now, one of the things that's important is there's a lot of research being done on what happens, I want to bring in economics, to a young woman who has a child. The younger she is when she has the child, as a rule, the less her opportunity to finish even 1 year of college, 2 years, 3 years. It gets harder and harder if she has a child. She and her child are now restricted to a level of impoverishment and economic struggle for the rest of her life. This isn't true for all young women who get pregnant, and especially at a young age, but it is true for, I believe the statistic is 80%. So this isn't just about reproductive rights. This is also about what we talked about recently, Santita, and that is the economic state of women. And if a woman has a child very early, this is going to affect her economics for the rest of her life. Now, I'm not putting anybody down who may have had a child early, but I really want people to look at both the medical implications, the economic implications, and now we come to the psychological implication, because we know that a woman who is struggling, a young mother who is struggling to raise a child, often on her own, usually on her own, ends up also feeling very anxious, very depressed. And we have now a cycle, a vicious cycle, because we have laws that say that woman doesn't have the right to choose what to do with her own body.
Do you think that, what do you make of the Ted Cruzes? I mean, and there are a lot of Ted Cruzes out here, Republican, Democrat, the discussion about reproductive rights always centers on the woman, and we never discuss a man, right?
This is why, I'm sorry to say it, I'm really glad that that representative proposed such a law. As bizarre and draconian as it is, it's no more bizarre and draconian as telling a woman she doesn't have the right to choose. And women have to be able to choose. And young women need to be educated. I work with groups of young women, Santita, here in the San Francisco Bay Area, many of whom didn't feel they had the right to choose, and end up very, very, very early with children when they're just children themselves. And it's a difficult situation for everybody. And I see the anxiety. I see the depression. I see the economic struggle. When I ask them, what is the number one issue that you are dealing with in your life that you need help with, you know what they tell me? Just trying to put food on the table. Just trying to feed themselves and their child. Now, there's just no excuse for that. There's no excuse for us to have young women, young moms, in a position like that, and being able to choose, am I able to be a mom now? Am I able to take care of a child? Should I finish school and be able to support myself? Or is this law going to force me and my child into poverty forever? And I'm a very strong advocate of women choosing with their own conscience, with their own right to say, what does this mean for me and my child for the rest of their lives?
Well, everybody, I want you to continue to call.
I just have to say this.
Please.
And all the men who think they have the right to tell women what to do with their bodies, this law about the vasectomy this would be, in my opinion, a real test of whether you understand that your body is your own.
I wonder how he feels about that. Everybody, Representative Hollis, who's a Democrat, added the proposal to this bill. It's a proposed Alabama law, everybody. She is trying to neutralize the Human Life Protection Act that was passed last summer, which would have made performing an abortion a Class A felony. Class A felony. You go to prison, everybody. Punishable by life or 10 to 99 years in prison. A federal judge blocked the ban in October, and a lawsuit is pending. So what do you think of this? I mean, State Representative Rolanda Hollis of Alabama is saying, okay, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. She said, if we're going to restrict the reproductive rights of women, then, look, soil needs seed. So why don't we just stop this seed supply? How about that? Put it gently, right? Well, soil just goes it's just not going to yield anything without seed. So let's talk about it, everybody. What do you think? What do you think? And Ted Cruz says, wait, now you're going too far. The knives are out. Ouch. I don't think so. Well, what about women? How do women feel? More of the Santita Jackson Show, talking with you and the Love Doc, Dr. Brenda Wade, right here on the Santita Jackson Show. And, of course, the president-elect of the National Bar Association, Attorney C.K. Hoffler, and you. Everybody wants to talk about this today. I cannot wait to hear your thoughts. Join us over on Facebook on the Santita Jackson and Friends page. Like and share. And then, of course, over here on the YouTube page, the Santita Jackson Show. Like and subscribe. Call us at 773-763-9278. Even if the line is busy, keep calling back on 773-763-WCPT 820. You can leave a text there as well. I want to know what you're thinking. More of the Santita Jackson Show in just a few minutes.
I agree on that situation. If the female was raping someone.
No.
Yes, then I agree that the guy.
Yeah. Why should women be the ones that has to think about birth control all the time? Why do little women have to worry about that? Why can't a man think about birth control too?
But that's why we're condoms. Yeah, that's what we do.
Okay, but not think that way. Not think put it upon a women to take care of that. And that's not right.
But you know what I will say? I will say this. I think that God gave women
34 minutes, so here's
a tremendous responsibility. And so God trusts women. They don't trust you. You have a missing rib. There was something wrong with you. That's why God made me, so I can complete you. I don't have a missing rib. I know your mouth dropped on that, didn't it? You said, what? Because women have we have the intuition. I mean, there are other things. I mean, I love men. I'm just saying we're different. And women bring something else to you that you don't get anyplace else. Okay? And so I think that women have another level of responsibility. Yes. Because the baby is carried inside of you. You cannot gestate a child. Everything that a child needs to become alive is inside of me. So I think we have to hold women to account. Now, as my father said to me when I went away to college, and yes, I'm saying it to you, he said, do not lie down in the bed at night with a man who will not get up out of that same bed and marry you in the morning.
Right.
I like that. That put a whole lot. That was my sex talk. Do not lie down in bed at night with a man who will not get up out of that bed and marry you the next morning. Change everything. You went. Okay. So that was on the table. In relationships.
You're in charge of hiring.
And so I think, yes, men need to accept a certain kind of responsibility, but since the baby's going to be on you, your children are on you. Right. You have to do some thinking. Right. Now, is he worth it?
Okay, there's sticky frog.
But
skills tests.
So you know what? I'm not going to fool with you. Or if I fool with you, I just got to take it.
Indeed delivers 3 times more hires than any other job site. Visit Indeed.com.
In the meantime, you need to be careful with your seed.
Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply.
This is Louis Geyer from GWC.
I'm just being honest with you, because men can be so silly and just irresponsible.
But both people have decisions, though. Why would also a female?
Yeah, both of us have the decision, right? But men have to grow up too. You have to grow up because you all you just foolish. And someone can tell you that a woman is no good or she doesn't mean you any good, and you all keep on going with it. And it's the most stupidest thing in the world. I didn't say it's the dumbest. You all just dumb. Yes, and I'm saying that right here. You just go like, really? No. Then of course, you want to get to know your son. She's mad with you. I mean, it's just a mess. Avoid the mess.
Chappelle says, "Mama's baby, daddy's baby."
Always. And since it is mama's baby, daddy's baby, and I was raised that way. My mother was like, honey, even when you have a husband who does well and who loves your children, the child is still on you. You're breastfeeding the child. You're pregnant with the child. You are very, very blessed if you have a man who's going to take care of you. But at the end of the day, that's on you.
Yes. Yeah.
Can you this thing? Oh boy. Is there any way for us to put it over here? Because these texts this thing ain't working here for me.
To WCPT 820.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. Got me using the bass in my voice today. Mandatory vasectomy at 50. Alabama lawmaker proposes response to the abortion ban. Alabama enacted a law last year. It's under review at this point that makes having an abortion a Class A felony. 10 to 99 years in prison, life in prison even, for women who have abortions. So State Representative Rolanda Hollis of Alabama said, okay, I want to neutralize this Human Life Protection Act, which would make an abortion a Class A felony. And so what we need to do is have men submit to vasectomies at 50 or after the birth of their third biological child, whichever comes first. And we've been talking with the Love Doc, Dr. Brenda Wade, and, of course, attorney C.K. Hoffler, the president-elect of the National Bar Association, the largest and oldest black bar association in the world, more than 65,000 lawyers. So I've got myself covered here. So, you know what? Let me go to some of these callers. Oh, my goodness. Let me see. Paul from Seattle. Paul, what's on your mind?
Morning, Cynthia. I wanted to comment on a different aspect of the abortion debate, such as it is, and it has to do with this notion, or this ridiculous question of abortion being permissible for a woman if under conditions of rape or incest, and to recognize how that question is so outrageously condescending and reminiscent of the patriarchal ordeal for a woman. And I'm harking back not just to the Middle Ages, but back to the times of the Bible of the Torah. And you know what I'm referring to, the book of Numbers, the ordeal. That first a woman would have to prove that she's been a victim of a violent crime or somehow force the cleanliness of her body. And of course that in real and logistical terms could take months while she's sitting there with an unwanted pregnancy. In fact, it could, many rape cases could be delayed for a year because this is a serious crime. While she sits there waiting, having to prove that first before the big fat man is going to let her have the right to her body. First, she must prove her cleanliness, or that her cleanliness has been violated by a violent crime. No other part of law insists that.
Well, Paul, let me ask you this. Do you think the vasectomies, the specter of a vasectomy, would help men think about this a little differently?
Well, I can tell you this. This was maybe a little bit too much information, but because I was, when I was a younger man, in a relationship where a woman got pregnant and was considering having the child, and I didn't want her to because I carry a genetic disease. she ultimately ended up deciding to terminate the pregnancy for her own reasons, not having nothing to do with me. But my answer to that was, I don't want any woman to be the one making my decision, so I decided to have a vasectomy on my own because I did not want to spread, I didn't want my genetic disease to continue, because it's a disease that causes blindness, and it happened to me. That's why I didn't want her to have So those are two different issues. But again, what I recognize from that relationship, this is a matter of choice for both people. She convinced me that it was a woman's choice. My recommendation, I didn't want her to have the baby. She told me, this is my last chance. I'm already 40 years old. I may never get another chance, and I might want to have this. And I realized from that conversation, this is not my choice. This is entirely her choice. My choice is to do with my body. Her choice is to do with hers.
Paul from Seattle, sending you much love. Mwah. Thank you, and thank you for feeling comfortable enough to share. Because because this is what we're dealing with, real life. A lot of people have a lot of things going on. Let me go to you. Oh my goodness, Verlon. I wonder what you have to say, Verlon.
Hey, listen. I know I'm at a disadvantage on this subject. I'm just calling to try to engage. Listen, I just believe in responsibility. Now, when a man gets a vasectomy, there's no going back. Now, if you're young and you're responsible, you're trying to get your career on track, and you want to wait for kids, if you tell a young man to get a vasectomy, there's no going back. See, nobody's trying to.
You could get your sperm stored someplace.
No, come on, that's.
You can't even get it out, can you? You can't. Just stay right there, Verlon. Attorney C.K. Hoffler, Dr. Wade.
Santita, it is possible to, yes, store sperm in a sperm bank. People do it all the time. And it is also possible to have a kind of vasectomy that can be reversed.
Yes.
Both of those things are true. Those are medical facts.
So, Verlon, would you be willing to do that? You're from the doctor.
No, absolutely not. Because, see, nobody's urging the woman to get snipped. Well, some doctors do urge you after 2 or 3 kids to get snipped, but nobody's making you get snipped.
Well, black women were forcibly sterilized for years. Are you kidding? Come on.
Well, I'm talking about now. I'm talking about today.
That could happen when you're poor and when you have no advocates. Anything could happen to you. We're forever vulnerable. Come on, Dr. Wade and C.K. Hoffler, please.
Absolutely. I just want to add, but, when you've got draconian laws, draconian laws are what allowed slavery to be one of the most horrific stories in this country. Draconian laws. This is a draconian law that Alabama has. So I don't agree with the draconian law that Representative Hollis is proposing. But I don't agree with the law that's in Alabama now. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that there is this debate, the fact that probably for the first time men and people of privilege are thinking of this issue and thinking perhaps of what it might be like to be a woman who has no choice, who has no money, and who is going to find a way, possibly, to think of what it might be like to be a young woman who's confronted with this situation. And this will change her life. This will change her life. So just think about it. We want our children, our young folks, to be responsible, to take responsibility, to be accountable. If they make a mistake, which grown-ups do, it takes 2 to make that mistake. It's not just one. And they want to do something to be responsible, not to bring a child into a world that they can't take care of, that they might abandon, that might have disease, that might be a product of violence, that might, all of these things that will continue a vicious cycle that we claim in the society we don't want, yet we're telling her that she can't have this. That is draconian. I'm the only word. I mean, I think Dr. Wade said oppressive. It is all those things. So the fact now that people who never thought about this, never even, because if they want to just have an abortion, they'll just fly to another state. If you have money, you just fly somewhere else and get the abortion. But many, 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 many people don't have that choice. They've never been on a plane. They can't afford a plane ticket. They can't afford a bus ticket. And they're in this situation. They might have 5 kids and can barely feed them, and here's a 6th one coming. So I think the fact that there is this discussion about these issues is healthy. I don't agree with either law. I think they're both draconian, or either the proposed legislation and the existing law. But I do think this discussion is critical, and it's healthy. And by the way, we should raise, these are the types of issues that should be raised in the presidential debate.
Yes. Amen. I agree. I absolutely agree. And I think that the reason I wanted to bring this topic, this subject, and I reached out to you, Dr. Wade, and you, Attorney Hoffler, I knew you would approach this with sensitivity and with a certain sensibility. We have to, men and women have to have this discussion. We have to have this discussion about who we are and who we really ought to be, not who we want to be, who we ought to be. And this is a very, very big issue. These are white men who made this decision to make abortion a Class A felony. You are very clear, we are products as African Americans of white men and black women. I mean, it just took me back to a plantation where black women just had to have the baby no matter what. You know, even if it was a product of rape or a forced relationship. You know, and that's what, I mean, that's what bothered me.
Right. And it's still true, Santita. This is the problem, is that it is still true that an enormous percentage, and I'm going to have to look up that percentage again, but I believe it was close to 80% of young women, teenage girls, have their first sexual experience, and it is a forced experience. They are coerced. They are forced. They are manipulated, dominated, controlled, simply because they are young, because they are children. They're not even, 21 years old. So it's very important to be aware that this coercion of young girls, this coercion of very young people, is part of the problem. And then, once again, it changes that woman's life forever, that child's life, if she's forced to have a child, forever. There's no going back. And the implications are devastating.
Let me go to Ron from Rockford. Ron, what's on your mind?
Oh, good morning.
Oh, Ron, you're going to have to turn everything down in the background, okay?
Okay, we'll do. I'm going to turn the radio off. Hold on, please.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Yeah, the radio.
Okay, Ron, what's on your mind?
Okay, now what I wanted to say was that that a female's hormones kick in before a boy's hormones kick in. Girls mature before boys. Okay. Hormonal activity is what causes a human being to get horny and want to experience sexual release. For most females, first sexual encounters, 7, 8, 9-year-olds are rubbing bellies with boys the same age as they and younger.
Are you, what?
Yeah, these people
rubbing bellies with anyone at 7, 8, or 9. No, Ron. Ron, I wasn't even thinking about being intimate at 7, 8, or 9. No. I mean, and you find, and I want Dr. Wade to jump in. Stay right here, Ron. You know, when you see girls acting out sexually at very young ages, typically they have been abused. Yes?
Exactly right, Santita. There are no children may innocently touch one another. Children may, in fact, rub bellies, but that has nothing to do with sex, has nothing to do with sex hormones. And it's not true that girls are pubescent before boys. It's about the same age. That's a fact. Now, what we're discussing is that most young girls who are sexually assaulted and it is an assault, that happens by, usually it's a family member or friend, someone in the neighborhood or the church or the school, someone that girl trusts or is exposed to, who coerces her. The study has been done. We just discussed it, Santita. When was that? 6 months ago we had that show where we talked about girls' first sexual experience is typically coercion. And the idea that, oh, she asked for it, oh, she was flirting or she was doing something that caused it, that is a myth. That's a myth. It is coercion. And if it leads to an unplanned pregnancy, we are now putting that girl, her child, forever at risk for health issues, mental health issues, and certainly impoverishment.
Let me go to Marnie. Is it Marnie? Yep. Marnie, what's on your mind? Marnie?
Yes.
What's on your mind?
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm so glad you called.
I was calling because I'm glad that this representative in Alabama brought up this issue about vasectomies, maybe to bring the whole idea of trying to make abortion illegal more of a discussion within the country, because they'll see it from a different perspective. I also have I'm very pro-choice. I think it's critical for women's health and her life. My issue is that if they want to look at making abortion illegal, then they need to start looking at the number of fetuses that are selected during in vitro fertilization processes, because that's a whole nother level, and nobody really talks about the fact that it's a wonderful medical procedure that women can now have families if they're not able to naturally through in vitro fertilization. But during that process, sadly, doctors select which embryos to select to implant and which ones to let perish. But that's not even brought up into this discussion about abortion. Abortion often is because women have no other options. They have looked at their lives. They do not feel that they are able to manage that child at that time in their life. Whereas in vitro fertilization is a choice. And I find that if they're going to look at making abortion illegal, they need to start looking at what's going on with in vitro fertilization and those embryos. If they're concerned about the embryos are always should be the focus. Does that make sense? I mean,
it does make
sense, but I hate to bring that into the discussion because, again, we are impinging on people's rights. We're impinging, and everyone has the right to reproduce by whatever method works for them when they're ready. If they're not, I agree. They have the right to say, "This is my body." So I totally agree. Bring anything else into the discussion that could take away someone's right to choose.
So I totally agree. That's why I would hate to have that happen. But I feel like in some ways the very pro-life people are somewhat hypocritical at times because they do not look at what else is happening. All they're looking at are the women who choose to have abortions, and unfortunately, a lot of those women do not have a lot of resources for other options in their lives.
Marnie, I just brought up a story. Hold on one moment, about a woman who was a newlywed, and she opted to have an abortion because she said, "I'd just gotten my job. My husband didn't have health insurance, and the job that I got gave me health insurance, but I needed to be on longer. I couldn't get paid leave, and we just didn't have the money." And, I'm just thinking, this is why I don't call people who say that they're pro-life. I say they're anti-abortion. Because if you're pro-life, you take care of life from the womb to the tomb. You do. So I'm not going to put that onus on us. No. If you're pro-life, you want to take care of life. You are life-affirming. And many of these people are not life-affirming. This is a control issue. So, whatever you or anyone you know has been through, get that off of you. People go through a whole lot of stuff in life.
any women's rights to be taken away for any reason, reproductive rights taken away. But I just find that it is kind of hypocritical that they're not looking at that situation. Instead, they're focusing on one population, which I think is terrible. Abortion should be legal and safe for any woman whenever she chooses to have one. That's my ultimate belief. But I just find that they're overlooking. If they want to attack certain women, they should need to look at the whole picture.
Dr. Wade?
Yeah, I think at the bottom of all of this is the scepter of sexism more than anything else, that women are still facing this form of now medical oppression, that there are laws telling women what they're allowed to do with their bodies is absolutely a form of women being oppressed.
I agree.
It's just unacceptable. It's unacceptable.
We're backtracking. It seems like we're backtracking. We're backtracking.
Recognizing at the end of the day is that we are actually, if women aren't safe, nobody's safe. If mothers aren't safe, nobody's safe. If women can't choose when and how to become mothers, we have a serious problem for our entire culture. Because men are not being held to a standard of if you're old enough to make a baby, then it's your responsibility too. It's on the woman. And that is simply unfair.
Let me try and get at least one or two other calls in before we get off the air. And those of you who want to stay over and talk with me on the after show, you're more than welcome to do so. Let me go to Nikki. Nikki, what's on your mind? And thank you, Marnie, for calling.
Hi. I think that we need to have another show about sex, because somehow not everybody, but some of the callers are missing the point of men. The guy who said that women become mature first or whatever, I'm sorry, but little boys at 5 years old achieve what everybody wants. I mean, girls sometimes don't get to that until they're 30. You're gonna find that. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you. Well, I don't know. Oh boy, I think there were a lot of other pieces in that discussion. I think that's why I wanted to bring Dr. Wade back in, Dr. Wade and Attorney Hoffler, because when you see girls wanting this, that sexual intimacy very early, they've been abused or they've been abandoned. There's something missing. It's not age appropriate. But I think that you're right. I think that we should have another discussion, and we will, and I'll work that out with Dr. Wade. Another discussion about sex in our intimate lives, and really what the whole point is. The old song, "What's It All About," Alfie? I think we really need to have that discussion. We need to have a grown-up discussion about a grown-up issue, and that's our intimate lives. Mm-hmm.
That path. I mean, that's just not how it works. Not with teenagers, not with most adults. It's just not.
I've got a couple of minutes left before I have to go. Attorney Hoffler, 1 minute, and you, Dr. Wade, 1 minute. Attorney Hoffler.
Yes, I think that we are in troubled times right now, as the presidential elections and the debates are reflecting. And part of where we're headed as a country, and part of the difficulty of these troubled times, I think that all of this is reflected in what's happening on a state level. The intrusion of government into reproductive rights is just one example. And it is my sincere hope that this dialogue continues, not just in Alabama, not just amongst people like Ted Cruz, no matter what his position was, which was just odd to me, but that this discussion continues, because if it doesn't continue, women's rights, reproductive rights, will be taken away methodically, and we will go back into the back rooms, because people are going to have abortion. And this is something that is so draconian that affects poor people, women, young women. And I didn't want to intertwine the discussion about IVF, but I just want to say this. It costs $10,000 to have an IVF treatment. $10,000. And of course there are some exceptions, and some people do have access to that. But $10,000, that's why there's no debate about IVF. And I don't think necessarily there should be, because we should have the right to do whatever. That's the problem with this. But as it relates to IVF, at least $10,000, maybe shave off a penny or two. So let's continue this discussion.
And we're going to continue it. We are. Attorney Hoffler. Dr. Wade, the final minute belongs to you.
You know, this is about us embracing every person as a human being, and that all human beings are valuable, all human beings are worthy, and that means that each one of us has the right to make choices in our lives, that young girls are safe so that they aren't sexualized early, and they aren't treated and made to believe that their only value in this world is to be a sexual being, and then to be told if they become pregnant because of this early sexualization that they have no right. We have to really think deeply about the implications, not just for that girl, but for women as a whole, and for those children that come into the world that have a mom now who's not ready to be a mom, who's not equipped physically, emotionally, mentally, or financially. And then who takes care of them? People are always complaining about moms who need public assistance. Well, a lot of those are the moms who are forced to have pregnancies they're not ready for. So there's a lot of complication here. But for me, the bottom line is women are as valuable and as necessary for the health and well-being of every society and our world as a whole. And when women are held as equal to men, that is when we'll have true peace and equality on this planet.
And that is the final word. And we're going to work with you, Dr. Wade, on, and you, Dr. Hoffler, Attorney Hoffler, I'm making you a doctor today, on talking about this further. On the after show, we'll talk about it. Back in just a minute.
Save up to $5 on Medicare Part D copays when Walgreens is your preferred pharmacy. Copay savings on Tier 1 generic drugs available through select plans that include Walgreens as a preferred pharmacy.
AP News. 20 AM, WCPT Willow Springs. And streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now your WCPT 820 Chicago traffic update.
In the Southland, northbound 394 has delays this morning. Jewel Road to Glenwood Lansing Road. Eden's inbound, it's heavy starting at Peterson. 25 minutes, Lake Hook to Montrose. Outbound 23. Inbound Kennedy 50. In the Southland, northbound 394 has delays this morning. Jewel Road to Glenwood Lansing Road. Eden's inbound, it's heavy starting at Peterson. 25 minutes, Lake Hook to Montrose. Outbound 23. Inbound Kennedy 56 minutes, O'Hare to downtown. 30 from Montrose. 22 in the Express. Outbound 42 minutes to the airport. Eisenhower 58 minutes. 390 to downtown. 44 from Wool. Stevenson an hour. 355 to the drive. Ride 42 minutes. 95th to downtown. See delays on the northbound side of the tri-state from Archer to LaGrange Road, from the Stevenson to the Hinsdale Oasis, from Reagan Tollway to the Grand Avenue Curve. On Reagan Tollway, it's heavy. Naperville Road to Yackley, Veterans Memorial, Boughton to Ogden. I'm Chip Telemonte.
Recognize this sound? That's your engine, and it demands protection to keep you on the road. New Peak 10X Antifreeze gives you more than 10 years of guaranteed protection for all vehicles. Top off with Peak today. Available at a store near you.
There's something new in the oven at the Home Depot. Air fry, only in the Frigidaire Gallery Air Fry electric range. Satisfy your family's fried food craving with a healthier, tasty cooking alternative right in your oven. It also comes with self-clean, true convection, and a very tasty price. Just $700.
Okay, we're coming up.
I love that second hour.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, if they want to talk about it some more, we will definitely do that.
Get more done.
What did you love about it?
So, I have my own opinion about the situation.
Which you're entitled.
Yes, and I blame it on hormones. To me, I don't know what Ron was talking about. You know, he shouldn't like say like 7. I agree it should have been like 16, 17, because that's for like the beginning of like stage of hormones where like everybody would like talk about because that's what sex education comes in and etc.
For girls it comes earlier,
Yes, I do know that, but
well, it has to because of because of menses, because you can always produce sperm forever.
Yes.
But we cannot have children forever. And there comes a point when a girl is moving into womanhood, and that's when girls and women start having different discussions. So and it is we have always been taught that for young men your hormones rage. We get that, but that still does not mean that you can't be responsible. It just sorry, you're gonna have to be responsible. You gotta be. No, not I mean, oops. You figure it out when the baby gets here, and if you are a responsible man yourself and you want to take care of your child, no, you gotta be responsible.
I'm gonna take the risk test at do I have pre-diabetes.
But I agree that both supposed to be responsible.
But obviously both are supposed to be responsible, but you all have not been given the responsibility that you deserve.
Right here on WCPT.
You need to know. I mean, a baby, because a woman can have a baby. What did it say? Chappelle put it out there. It's an old expression. Mama's baby, daddy's maybe. You all can have a baby and keep on going. Women don't have that space. Eventually, you will want to get to know your child, though. That's just the way the universe works. So you have to. I mean, and it's. What my father said, it takes. Anybody can have a baby, but it takes a man to raise a baby. And if you are ready to do that, okay. But if you're not ready to do that, you better think about it.
Whether it's gravity.
And hormones, no, honey, no. This is not. A hormone is not a demon that's pushing you to do anything. This is not an exorcism you need. You need self-control.
6 to 7 p.m. right here on WCPT.
Yes, we're talking about that. This is self-control. Self-control. That's what you need. That's what you need.
I had to do something to simply not to go to hell for selling timeshare.
Chuck McDowell founded Wesley Financial Group to help folks cancel their timeshares permanently.
Called her and everybody that I had sold timeshare to, and I said, this is what I said to you that was a lie, and this is what you need to do to cancel your timeshare. From that point, people started referring friends to me to help them cancel a timeshare, and that's how it all started. I fought the world's largest timeshare company in federal court. If I had lost that lawsuit, there would be no one helping people that have been lied to when they bought timeshare.
I disagree with the law. For the tenant. I disagree with the abortion law and both and vasectomy.
That's 800-618-1414. 800-618-1414.
Listen to the Tom Hartman radio program every weekday from 11
It's
to 2
crazy.
right here on WCPT.
Well, I'm just trying to. Everybody, just hold on one moment. We're going to be coming up in a hot second. Bedalia has to switch the show over to another channel. Okay, she's here now, and so we're coming up.
It's the Stephanie Miller Show.
Okay, everybody wants to talk, so here we are. We're going to have to revisit this for sure. Hey, stand by, everybody. Hey, hold on one moment. I'm so glad that you're here. Just one moment, please.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Let's see. Who do we have? Ronald, we have Tim, we have Patty, and we have Chaparral. Oh, boy, do we have a team in the house today. How did you like the discussion?
I love this, Santita.
Okay, Chaparral is shouting over everybody, so why don't you just jump out front since you're in Facebook jail today. I got to give you... Why are you in Facebook jail? First, tell people why you're in Facebook jail.
Well, I'm in Facebook jail because the day that Trump let Blagojevich out, I was live tweeting, and I said Trump and Chris Christie
Fat A needs to both be in jail for all the crimes that they've done. And so the Facebook said I was bullying the community. So I'm in jail for 3 days.
Oh, no, not you, not a bully, not you, Chaparral.
I disputed this, so hopefully I'll win the dispute, but if not, I'll see y'all in 3 days.
Oh, my goodness. You know, let me go to Patty. Patty, what's on your mind?
I'm in with a single sentence on the abortion debate, and it shouldn't even be a debate, but women's bodies are not public property to be voted on. And if you just say that, a lot of times that just shuts the argument down, because men's bodies are public property to be voted on. What if we made a law that said, well, you know, you guys only need one testicle. We can, you know, just eliminate one of them, you know, and... You know, the vasectomy thing is totally a different thing. But I had my tubes tied. I didn't want kids. I think that if I had been pregnant against my will, I probably would have killed myself.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, I'm sorry. I'm not a suicidal person.
No. You know what? But look, but I think that for people, I think people have to understand that folks have a lot of. People have a lot of things going on, and we come at life from a lot of different directions, right? And so I think that I hear you.
Well, you know, I mean, I'm not at all any kind of a suicidal person, but that is one line I would absolutely not cross, is to have a child against my will. And I never had kids. I never wanted kids. I was 12 years old when I decided I didn't want kids, and I had my tubes tied as soon as I could do it. And it was the best day of my life.
So you're saying that it was your choice. You would not have wanted to have had the choice made for you, right?
Right, exactly. But just women's bodies are not public property, and that's what everybody's saying. Is that all these other people have a vote on deciding what happens to somebody they don't even know.
Well, you know, and Patty, I have to tell you, I had to ask you that question because, you know, black women for centuries had no choice in the matter. And black women were routinely sterilized without our permission. Or we were forced to have the baby of the slave masters or his friends. Which is why we look, you know, whenever you see black people walking down the street, there's so many different colors. There's such a range because of that. So, you know, I think that all women can feel some kind of way about this, but I know black women in particular, you know, feel a particular kind of way about this because of our own personal history. And remember, we've been out of slavery for a shorter period of time than we were in slavery longer than we've been free. So, you know, all of this is very, very close to us, to all of us. But stay right there, Patty. You're going to leave us? Okay, I understand.
Yeah, but I wanted to get that in because, you know, I've had guys just absolutely clam up when I just say, you know, like we're not public property for you to make a decision, and you know, went out there.
Well, you know, you are in my prayers, and I'm just so glad that you called in today.
Okay.
Oh, bless your heart. Thank you. I'm sending you much love and big hugs.
Love it.
Love you, girlie. God bless you, and have a great day. Mr. Ronald, what's on your mind?
Good morning, Santita. How are you?
Good morning. Okay, is anyone riding in their car? Oh, good morning. Yes, sir. I was just asking, is anyone riding in their car, because we can hear the background noise. If you have your window open, if you don't mind, please close it. Oh, okay. There are a couple of other people on the line with you. What's on your mind, Mr. Ronald?
It's an interesting topic. I used to be a prevention educator, and I did want to sexual assault and dating violence. You know, 1 in 3 women are sexually assaulted in this country by the time they're 18 years old. And when a child acts out sexually at a young age, that's a learned behavior. That child is probably being abused in some sort of way or another. And when I listen to men, especially men like Berlin and the other gentleman was on, make these stupid remarks about what women should have and what they shouldn't. If a man could carry a child and give birth, he would change his mind in a hurry about abortion and about a whole lot of things like that. And we need to respect the fact that a person should have a choice whether it's an abortion or a vasectomy. It should be a person's choice totally.
Okay, let me hear from you, Tim.
Well, I like the conversation. I was actually going to interject the situation where a woman is forced to have an abortion. I know two men in my lifetime who forced their wives, one of them was a wife, one of them was a long-time girlfriend, to have an abortion or our relationship is over. And it's never left me. That has never left me. The idea that this woman wanted their child and had to abort the child to stay in a relationship. And I was just wondering how the women in this discussion feel about that, because that's something I have actually experienced with. There certainly are not friends of mine or people I associate with anymore because I was told that by the people, by the guys. It's like, no, I told her that if she wanted to keep this relationship, that kid had to go. And it wasn't her choice. She wanted the child. So
ultimately it was her choice, and that's between the two of them. Because she could have ended the relationship, and I mean, this is not blame. This is responsibility. This is when grown folks make decisions, and and I wouldn't get in that, quite frankly. Whatever they have done in their relationship is their business. This is when I don't step into other people's business. No, now what I would do, that's a different thing, and I'm not going to impose that upon you. But that's on them. That's on them. She had a choice. She chose him over the child. Okay, she's got to live with that, and he's got to live with it too. That's on them. That's on them. It's just what we're talking about here is a state that has enacted a law. Initially, Chaparral, as you recall, and Mr. Ronald and Tim, as you recall, they made it illegal for a woman to have an abortion under any circumstance, even under the circumstances of rape or incest. Anyway, the final iteration of the law states that it's a Class A felony. So, and that goes for the doctors who perform the abortions and for the women who receive them. And so this state legislator, in response, said, okay, well then what we're going to do, one of the ways that we can help cut down on these abortions is have men have vasectomies. Now, I agree with Attorney C.K. Hoffler. I don't think that the state should be inside of our bodies, period. I think they're decisions that grown people need to make, and they should be allowed to make them. That's on you. That's on you. That having been said, that's the issue here. What you brought to us, Tim, was really personal. It's folks making determinations about what their priorities are in a relationship, and that's on them.
I thought that's just something that
I'm sure. And it sounds like it hurt you, and I hear you, and I can feel that. But this is a woman who made a decision. She said, he's my priority. Okay.
Tim, are you more upset with the man or the woman?
I was so upset with the man that they're no longer. I haven't talked to them in years. That's it. I'm a pro-life person, so the women were pro-life, and they were forced to make a choice that they didn't want to make. And to me, that's what when you say pro-choice, then that's something you have to abide by. It's a constitutional law. It's not something. That's why I'm shocked that a state can override constitutional law. That a woman's right to choose is constitutionally protected by law. So it's shocking. I think that if they were to hold the man accountable as well. Okay, so if this abortion happens, both people are felons. I bet this law would be overturned. It would never even have gone through assembly. It wouldn't even have gone through the committee. So it does sound.
Now that part I agree with him. I agree with that, but they want to always punish the woman like we're doing this on our own, like we get pregnant by ourselves, and that is never the case. We always have help because we can't get pregnant without y'all.
That's 100% fact. So that's why I thought I would interject that. So, and now, one thing, Santita, I would like to ask you, in this state, in Illinois, do our tax dollars pay for abortion?
I don't know.
Because that to me is crossing a line.
I mean, they probably do. They probably do because Medicaid pays for it. People are receiving Medicaid. They probably do pay. They probably do get pay for abortion. But y'all ain't gonna pay for to have them babies again. So, like, if a woman is on public assistance and she gets pregnant, they don't give her increase on her check because y'all told her that's okay. You can continue to have babies, but we ain't gonna pay for them. So. These are the things that's happening.
Assistance is sent to the child, not to the woman. Assistance is sent to the child.
That's what I'm trying to tell you, Tim. Tim, what I'm trying to say, just say that when I receive public aid, I have one child, okay?
Right.
Just say I get pregnant again, and I actually have another child. Only thing I get for that child is food stamps. I don't get money to take care of that child because you're telling me you made a wrong decision to have this baby. That is what the states have put in place because when they had made all the changes to welfare, that is what the program states now. So now the child is no longer covered for clothing and everything. The only thing that the state will do is feed them. Now, the one that had abortion or not had abortion?
Hello?
That's my whole point.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine.
Hold on, Mr. Ronald. Hold on. What now?
Yeah.
I'd like to respond to that. Hello? May I respond?
Oh, hold on. Yes, Mr. Ronald, let Tim respond to Chaparral, and then you jump in.
I couldn't agree with you. Okay, I was just like, and you know what?
No, Mr. Ronald, hold on one moment. Let me let Tim respond, and then you jump in, okay? Okay. Tim?
Okay, the thing is, it's shocking when somebody says the state should start paying me to have children. That, to me, is antithetical to an ethical society. I mean, feeding children and then clothing them, then do we pay for schools, and then do we pay for apartment houses, and do we pay for cars, and then do we pay for their insurance? I mean, that to me is where does it stop? Where does a person have to be held accountable for their own actions? I am. So when
that's my point, Tim. That is why some women choose to have an abortion instead of bringing another child who they cannot afford into life. That is my whole point. I'm not saying that the state should take care of children, but what I'm telling you is that when you're faced with that decision, because ain't nobody who started having sex gonna stop having sex. Let's just be real.
We're human beings, not animals.
Exactly. Well, what I'm telling you, ain't nobody gonna stop having sex. So you don't want to pay for birth control. You don't want to pay for abortion. And ain't nobody having sex. So guess what's coming? Baby. So are you going to pay for baby?
I don't want to pay for people having sex. If you want to have sex, that's your own private choice. So you're saying I should be paying for people to have uncontrollable sex. And I'm a human being who went through this life for half a century plus, and I have had sex, and I have been very analytical and very, very responsible in sex. And I'm a human being that makes those choices. Like I raised a daughter, and I told her, this is how it happens. If you want to have sex with a boy, or a man, if you want to have sex as a teenager, and you say, I will have sex with you if you have a condom, and the only condom is in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, that guy will drive to Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, get the condom, and come back. Otherwise, have responsible sex, which means won't have sex if you don't.
Hey, Tim, you said that you're very conservative, right?
Yes.
You're very conservative. Okay, so the Bible says you should not. Listen, Tim, the Bible says you should not spill your seed. Right? The Bible says you should not spill your seed. So guess what? Your seed is supposed to be deposited. It's according to the word of God. Huh?
My name is not Onan. That is one incident in the Bible. Jesus talked to a woman.
Oh.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. Stop spilling your seed. You talk about holding the seed into the condom, and you think condoms don't break. That's what you don't know what's going on in the real world.
No, hold on. Okay, hold on. Ron, hold on, please. Okay, just wait 1 minute. I'm going to get you in. I just have to, I hear you. Okay? No, I keep hearing you. But just let them continue so you can get in appropriately, okay? Okay, very good. Now, Mr. Ronald, because you don't want to be interrupted now, do you? I hear you. No, but look, let me tell you something, and I keep going over this. Even as we disagree, we have to respect each other's space and opinions. Okay? I mean, we really, because we've gotten into a space here in the culture where we don't respect each other's opinions and we don't let people have their say. We don't. And I just think, and that is not, no, honey, and I know you mean well. I'm just saying that is, many of us, and I'll say this as you go on, many of us say, oh, we can't stand President Trump. Okay, I heard that. That having been said, many of the people who oppose him are they are as guilty of being offensive as he is. You understand? It's just like, when is it going to stop? You understand? I'm certainly not accusing you of being that or doing that, but it's like, come on, everybody. Bring it down 1,000. Let's just talk with each other, okay? No, of course, but you have talked for a minute, Tim. Mr. Ronald's been trying to get in. Now you hush. You always respond, and your saying it is not going to make me do anything. You know that. You know better than that. Hush. All right. He loves that, Mr. Tim. Mr. Ron, Tim loves that. You just be quiet. Just hush, Tim. Oh gosh, he needs it. He calls every other day so he can get bopped upside the head. He's nuts. But go on, Mr. Ronald.
Well, it's a shame that so many men have the same viewpoints as him, and they have not learned anything in all these years. It's a shame that 40 years of the Roe case is we're still even having this conversation. We should be talking about things that need to be done. Unfortunately, this conversation is continually coming up because people with antiquated thoughts about abortion and about the rights of people's bodies are still pertinent in our conversation. And I respect him, and I respect his view. I respect Miran's, I respect the girl, and everyone else. But it would be nice to talk about other legislative matters like clean air, clean water, health care, and all the other things we need. And stop this antiquated stuff about these abortions. I wish it would go away, unfortunately. It's not going away. But to me, that would be great if this could happen. We respect men and women, respect their rights. Whether you want to have an abortion or a vasectomy, or whatever your choice is. That would be nice. I know it's not coming. It might be a dream, but that's what I would like to have happen.
Well, now closing thoughts. Pearl, you're going to have to be last. Tim. Tim, your closing thought?
My closing thought is I don't like to have biblical situations interjected into this debate because when I look at Onan's situation, I look at Tamar's embarrassment. I look at the fact that Judah and Tamar are great-grandparents of Jesus. So there's far more to the Onan situation than spilling his seed on the ground. That's theological. Now, when it comes to abortion in the United States of America, it's a woman's right to choose. It's also, we have the First Amendment, which we have the right to try and persuade a woman not to have that abortion on regular grounds, that there should be life, pro-life, from the conception until natural death. And we should take care of each other from conception to natural death. That is the Christian way, and it should also be a civilization way, a civilized society way. That's my last comment.
Mr. Ronald? No, let Mr. Ronald respond, and then you wrap it up, Chaparral. Mr. Ronald?
My final comment is to say thank you, first of all, Santita, for checking me down on interrupting. I wasn't trying to, and I appreciate that. But I think this is another thing that are going on in this world. We need, like you said, Santita, to listen to one another, and just one another's opinions and conversations. But this abortion thing needs to end. I'm tired of old white men in particular having control over women's bodies and wanting to do what they want from women. And you know, it's the same that we want to bring a child here, but we want to take care of the child as a sister. Okay, it's on in, but now when it comes time to educate them, it's time to feed them, it's time to do everything else, we don't want to have anything to do with that. Just bring up there. So, you know, it's a conversation. It's old and antiquated, but it's still going on. And it would be nice one day to wake up and say, everybody has their own choice and their own body they want.
Chaparral?
I want to say to Tim, I hear you. You want to have women have all these babies, but you don't want to help take care of them. That's my biggest point when it comes to Republicans and conservatives. But they don't understand it's not just giving the baby life, but giving them life until they can afford to take care of themselves. You are just, as soon as I said that the state has to, don't give them much, I don't want the state to take care of them. I don't want the state, well, who the hell is going to take care of the baby? Who is going to take care of the child? That's what I'm trying to figure out. You want to bring forth all this life, and I am pro-choice, but I'm very conservative for myself. But it's just the reality. You don't want to pay for birth control through public assistance. You don't want to pay for the child. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out, you bring a child to put them in poverty? You give the child life to put them in poverty? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Oh, but you know what? Let me tell you something, Tim, look, when children lose both their parents, they become, and they don't have any other relatives, they become wards of the state. They belong to us anyway. And you can't say that you cannot be pro-life and then cut love off for a child. I mean, if the child is a life, they're sacred. You say you're Christian, and I believe that. Then you just love the child, and you try to make the child the best person that they can be. You try to give them the opportunities. You don't continue to damn the child to hell because of the circumstances of their birth. You don't do that. So, I mean, at some point, just have a heart. Come on now, have a heart. And let's grow up in our politics. You know what? Because let me tell you something about conservatives that I've seen. You're gay, you have abortions, you do everything. So I don't know what conservative, maybe it makes you feel like you're cleaner, leaner, and better than everybody else, but it's not true. Conservatives do everything. Everything in the world that they accuse everybody else of doing. Because what? They're human and they have issues, whatever. I don't care. So just stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Yeah, you have to pay for everything. We have to pay for everything. You have to pay for you have to pay for the coronavirus, because one person in the world has it, everybody has it, or everybody's at risk of having it.
Child taken care of.
Maybe the family, maybe the family, what, sometimes the best blessing in the world is for that child not to be with that family, because that family could be totally messed up. How about that? You don't know what God is trying to work out. You don't know what God is trying to work out in the person that God might give the child to. You have to no, wait a minute. You're talking to someone whose own parents were not raised by both of their parents. My brothers Jesse, Johnny, Yusuf, Jackie, and I and my sister. We are the first of my parents' generation to be raised by two parents who've been married to each other forever and ever with 5 kids in one family, but with same parents. Okay? Nothing is wrong with my parents. They are not inferior people, but they were born in certain circumstances. And they had to work to break a certain cycle of pain, not just poverty, but pain. And that's what people do. And that is what people do. No, it is what it is. And my mother's not a mistake. My father was not a mistake. I'm not a mistake. My brother, like my mother said to us, she said, look, whoa, hey, when I got pregnant with each of you, we could not afford any of you, particularly the first 3. She said, but we figured it out. What was I supposed to do? Put one of you back? Look, I didn't say I was. No, my parents have not been pro-abortion, pro-life. I told you where I am on that. And so and that's not unusual. Most black people don't believe. They have serious problems with abortion. But even with the problems that we have with abortion, I still believe that people should have the right to do what they feel that they need to do. That is on them. It's on them. And you know what? Unlike you, as a man, my reproductive health is part of my overall physical health, because when I have my menses, when a young lady first gets her period, she no longer goes to the pediatrician. She must go to a gynecologist. She must. Because we are different than men. Okay? So we have a different conversation, a conversation that many of you in your limitations do not even understand. And I get it. Okay? You should have no choice. It's biological fact. If I miss my menstrual flow, then there's something wrong with me. And I have to go to the doctor because there's a whole lot of things that are going on. And that is something that a woman has to go through for 25, 30, 40 years, every 28 days. She's constantly checking. So women and men are different. And we have a different set of issues that we've got to deal with. And that's all there is to it. And all we ask is that because we are partners in this human project, men and women, you need to try to begin to understand me. And please do not function with the arrogance of many of your forefathers. Well, you forced me to have your child. Look at me on Facebook right now. I am obviously a product of some mischief. That does not make me feel good. But I remember going to Monticello with my father and my brother and my sister. My brother was a freshman at UVA, and we were honored to go into Thomas Jefferson's house. And the curator, because his house, Tim and Chaparral, the president's house is a museum. It's technically a museum, and it's really an incredible estate. And we were blessed enough to have the curator of the museum, Bedalia, take us on a private tour. So we got there about 7 o'clock in the morning before everybody got there, and we were taken into rooms that people are not allowed into. And what was stunning, Chaparral and Tim, I'd read so much about Sally Hemings down through the years, anything I could get my hands on. And it was so clear to me that he had a life within a life, because Sally Hemings was the black sister of his wife. Thomas Jefferson was widowed at 39. He died at 83. Sally Hemings, he started a relationship with her when she was 14 and he was 39. And they ended up having 7, 8, 9 kids. And everybody knew it. And in fact, different people would come to visit at Monticello. They would remark that it was odd to see these people who appeared to be white who were serving them dinner, who were working in the house. And when you get into Monticello, there are rooms behind rooms behind rooms. And so I was asking such pointed questions that the curator asked me if I was an historian. I said, no, I'm not, but I've read a lot, and so it's very clear to me that he had Miss Hemings' children living in this house with him. Because there were rooms behind rooms behind rooms. And there were all of these different pathways in the house. I mean, it was just really interesting. And the different accounts that I'd read kind of pointed to that. And I'm just saying to you, she didn't have a choice in that relationship. did not have a choice. At 14, I don't care how Merchant Ivory tried to paint it in this glossy view of a 39-year-old man deciding to bed a 14-year-old child. And he kept at it with her for 44 years and took her to the White House with him. And there's a song about her that J.T. Callender, his mortal enemy, wrote about Dusky Sally. J.T. Callender, 2 L's. Look it up. Dusky Sally. They were so into their relationship, or he just couldn't do without her, he brought her to the White House with him. So Michelle Obama was not the first black first lady. It was actually Sally Hemings. But it got so hot for him in D.C. in terms of the gossip that he had to send her home. Okay? She didn't have any choices. So when I see that law down in Alabama, I think of my grandmother, my father's mother, who was a very mixed woman, who refused to watch Roots. Mr. Pearl and Tim. She said, "Do you think I want to be reminded of why we look the way we do?" I mean, and I'm very brown next to her. God rest her soul. Okay. Because her people look like white people. And in fact, people have written about Reverend Wright about that. There was one story, Shapiro, when he first ran for president. They said they had been down in Greenville, South Carolina, where he was from, and they said, he has a very interesting background, and one wonders if there were a cowboy and Indian fight, what side would he be on? Okay? So when we talk about black women, when we talk about choice and caring for babies and having to deal with the impact of a child that was born out of a forced relationship or less than desirable circumstances, that's something black women know well, and all women do, quite frankly. So what we're asking of men is that, you know what, man up then. If you want me to have the baby, then you help to take care of the baby that you got here. That's what you do. And stop coming down on me. Look at that woman who decided to have the abortion rather than give up the man. Yeah, he's got a problem, and she did too. And it should be between them to work it out. Because guess what? While she was sleeping with him, she knew he wasn't father material, let alone husband material. So that's between them.
The judgmental accountability that you're talking about with that couple, I'm called a bigot. I'm called a misogynist.
I don't care. Let that go. You don't care. You don't care what you're called. You really don't, because you have your feelings, and they are what they are. So I'm not here to be the salve for that. If someone calls you a bigot, they might have some other issues with you and some other things that they see, and they will work that out, and you will too. The Tim I know is a decent man who I like a lot, but if someone else sees some bigotry in you, and we're all bathing in this nasty marinade called racism and classism and sexism and all the isms, we just have to work it out, Tim. Nobody's immune, okay? I'm not here to give you the absolution and not let you be racist, okay? Because everybody's got that in them, okay? So let that go. I'm not an altar. I'm just a person. Okay? All right. Okay. I can't bless you. Oh, Santita said you're not racist. No, I'm not that one. Okay? So let it go. Okay? Let it go. And just go on. And let us all go from this conversation just trying to be better people. That's all because I am as imperfect as I can be. Okay? I am an imperfect person, an imperfect vessel trying to do a perfect work. That's it.
I am trying to talk to Diane Palmer of SCIU Local 73 to get a hold of you. So I'm working on that as we speak.
And I thank you for that. Thank you, because I want to speak with the SCIU because I want to talk with them about their health care. Okay? Well, I love you, Tim. Oh, thank you, Tim. And now you tell Shapiro you love her. You know you love Shapiro.
He's my favorite. Tim is my favorite. I love you more.
Y'all are crazy. Wow.
I enjoy this even though sometimes you beat up on me unnecessarily.
Really?
We already determined that you like women beating up on you, Tim.
Really?
We've already determined that.
That's not true, but
Yeah.
You love it.
I just like to have the ability to speak in a neighborly way. Not every neighbor agrees with each other, but we have to live on the same street. We have to live on the same society. We have to share caring for each other, even if we don't agree on everything. That's how I want to live my life until I pass away.
Tim, I love you. I just, really. And Chaparral, I love you. And I love everybody who's here today. And I want you to know I really had about 4 hours of sleep yesterday in total. And one of the great blessings of my life is having this job. Because I get a chance to speak with you all. I've met so many wonderful people. And you all have embraced me, and you've embraced each other more than that. And that makes me feel so good. Because I think that in some small way, we are really working to make the world a little bit better. We try to engage each other in a civil way, in a loving way. And that is really the point. I think we can share our experiences without feeling threatened, without feeling bullied. Because bullying is not new to America. It's called lynching. We've been doing that since we've been here. Okay? That's what people do to each other. It's unfair. It's not right. And so I just want us to continue to just try to work with each other and love each other. That's all. Not tolerate. The Bible commands. It's not a suggestion. It's a commandment that we love one another. We've been commanded to do that. That is God's dictate to us. So we have to figure it out. And at least on this show, that is what we're going to try and do every day. Okay? I love you. I love you, Tim. I love you, Chaparral.
Love you too, Santita.
And Chaparral, you all, especially when it comes to when we bring up Christ. So.
Now, I want to hear you and Tim say to each other, for the whole audience to hear, that you love each other. Go.
I love you, Tim.
Chaparral, I love you too.
I love you all.
I too.
Love you.
Love you. Okay. I love you. I love you. And I love all of you. I love you. It's all you too, sweetie. I love you, everybody. It's all love. And I'll see you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show.